AAP Bilkul Sahi Keh Rahi Hain. Main Ubi Isco 1200 words tack extend Cartahone. The predator cubs dozed restlessly until the human entered. The monitors couldn't record any pattern. The observation dome hummed with soft blue light as Dr. Kalen pressed his palm against the reinforced glass. Below, in the containment chamber, 7 Zathrian cubs paced in tight circles. Their scaled bodies rippled with tension, tails lashing against the padded walls. Each cub was roughly the size of an earth wolf, with crystalline eyes that glowed faintly in the dim lighting. They haven't slept properly in 3 cycles, Station Commander Urix said, her mandibles clicking with concern. The insectoid officer gestured to the monitoring screens that lined the wall. Every sedative we've tried either doesn't work or makes them more agitated. We're running out of options. Kalen studied the data scrolling across the nearest screen. Heart rates elevated. Stress hormones at dangerous levels. Neural patterns showing severe sleep deprivation. The cubs had been rescued from a smuggling vessel 2 weeks ago, their parents killed by poachers. Without proper rest, their young bodies would start shutting down within days. What about the pattern analysis? Kalen asked as Urix's antennae drooped. That's the strange part. Our AI has processed thousands of hours of footage from Zathrian colonies. Cubs should have predictable sleep cycles tied to circadian rhythms. These 7 show no pattern at all. The monitors can't find anything consistent in their behavior. Kalen watched as the largest cub, the one the staff had named Vash, suddenly stopped pacing and stared directly at the observation window. The cub's eyes locked onto Kalen's position, even though the glass was supposed to be one way. A low rumble vibrated through the chamber. Has anyone tried going in with them? Kalen asked as Urix's entire body stiffened. Absolutely not. Zathrians are apex predators. Even cubs that young have claws that can shred through standard armor. Our xenobiologists observe from a distance only. 3 researchers have already requested transfers because the cubs' distress calls keep them awake at night. They're not predators right now, Kalen said softly. They're scared children. He turned away from the window and headed for the airlock. Urix skittered after him, her 6 legs moving in rapid succession. Dr. Kalen, I cannot authorize this. The liability alone. Then don't authorize it, Kalen said, pulling a containment suit from the locker. I'm entering as a volunteer civilian researcher. Log it however you need to. You're insane. Humans may come from a death world, but that doesn't make you invincible. Kalen smiled as he stepped into the suit, leaving the helmet off. No, but it does mean I understand fear differently than most species. Earth taught us that sometimes the scariest things are the most frightened. Before Urix could protest further, Kalen cycled through the airlock. The inner door hissed open, and he stepped into the chamber without the helmet, without weapons, without anything but himself. 7 pairs of crystalline eyes fixed on him instantly. The cubs went silent, their pacing stopped. Vash took 3 steps forward, head low, a warning growl building in his throat. The other cubs spread out, instinctively forming a defensive formation despite their exhaustion. Kalen sat down cross-legged on the floor, making himself smaller, less threatening. He didn't make eye contact. He simply breathed, slow and steady, and began to hum. The tune was something his grandmother used to sing when he couldn't sleep as a child. No words, just a melody that rose and fell like gentle waves. The cubs watched him, confused. This wasn't how prey behaved. Prey ran or froze or fought. This human just sat and made soft sounds. Minutes passed. Kalen kept humming, his eyes half closed, his posture relaxed. He noticed the cubs' body language shifting. Their ears, which had been pinned back in aggression, began to relax. Their tails, which had been rigid with tension, started to lower. Gradually, one of the smaller cubs took a tentative step closer. Then another. Vash remained in place, but his growl had faded to silence. The cub leader was watching, assessing, trying to understand what kind of threat this strange creature represented. The smallest cub reached Kalen first, sniffing cautiously at his outstretched hand. Kalen didn't move, didn't react. The cub's rough tongue scraped across his palm, tasting his scent. Finding no threat, the cub pressed against Kalen's side and curled into a ball. Within seconds, the cub's breathing deepened. Its eyes closed. It was asleep. The other cubs watched with fascination. Their sibling, who had been as restless as they were, had suddenly found peace. Another approached, then another. They circled Kalen like he was a campfire on a cold night, drawn to something they couldn't name. One by one, they settled against him, their scaled bodies creating a protective ring. Vash was the last. The cub leader approached slowly, studying Kalen with intelligent eyes that seemed far older than they should be. He sniffed the air, processing information through senses far more acute than human ones. Kalen could feel the cub's hot breath on his face, could see the individual scales that formed intricate patterns across Vash's snout. Then, with a decision made, Vash stepped over two sleeping siblings and pressed his larger body against Kalen's back. The weight was substantial, easily 60 kilograms of muscle and predator instinct. But Kalen didn't flinch. He kept humming, kept breathing, and felt the tension drain from Vash's frame. The cub leader's claws, which could tear through metal, rested gently against Kalen's shoulder. Within minutes, Vash was snoring softly, his breath warm against Kalen's neck to eye in the observation dome. Commander Urix stared at the monitors in disbelief. Every screen showed the same impossible scene. 7 Zathrian cubs, sleeping peacefully for the first time in 3 cycles, all pressed against a single human who sat at the center like a living anchor. "Get the medical team ready," Urix said quietly to her assistant. "Monitor his vitals continuously. If anything changes—" "Commander," the assistant interrupted, pointing at one screen. "Look at the neural scans." The brainwave patterns of the cubs had synchronized. All 7 showed identical delta wave activity, the deep sleep their bodies desperately needed. But more than that, there was a new pattern emerging, one that hadn't existed before. "What is that?" Urix whispered. The AI processed the data and displayed its analysis. The pattern wasn't coming from the cubs alone. It was resonating between them and the human, a feedback loop of calm that the monitors had never been programmed to recognize. "It's his heartbeat," the assistant said with wonder in their voice. "They're synchronizing their sleep cycles to his heartbeat. The rhythm is acting like a lullaby on a biological level." "That's impossible," another researcher interjected. "Zathrians don't respond to auditory cues for sleep induction. Their neurology is completely different from mammalian species." "Then explain what we're seeing," Urix said sharply. The researcher studied the data, their expression shifting from skepticism to awe. "I can't. The human heartbeat is around 60 beats per minute. It's creating a subsonic vibration through the floor where he's sitting. The cubs are feeling it, not hearing it. It's mimicking the vibration frequency of an adult Zathrian's purr, which is how parents soothe their young." "But humans don't purr," the assistant said. "No," the researcher replied slowly. "They don't. But somehow this human's physiology is accidentally replicating the exact frequency that these cubs need. The probability of this being coincidence is astronomical," Urix finished. "Or perhaps not coincidence at all." Kalen remained in the chamber for 6 hours. The cubs slept through all of it, their bodies finally getting the rest that biology demanded. Occasionally, one would twitch or whimper, caught in a dream. Each time, Kalen would adjust his humming slightly, and the cub would settle. The monitors recorded everything, but even with all their advanced sensors, they couldn't quantify what was really happening. They couldn't measure the weight of loss that both human and cubs carried. They couldn't graph the unspoken understanding between beings from different worlds who had both known fear and loneliness. They couldn't chart the simple truth that sometimes, what scared children needed most wasn't medicine or analysis. Sometimes they just needed someone brave enough to sit with them in the dark. When Kalen finally stood, moving with careful precision to avoid waking his companions, Vash's eyes opened briefly. The cub leader watched as the human walked back to the airlock, then closed his eyes again and returned to dreaming. Something in his expression had changed. The fear was gone. The other cubs didn't stir at all to eye in the observation dome. Commander Urix updated her report with shaking hands. Recommendation: assign Dr. Kalen as primary caretaker until cubs can be returned to Zathrian authorities. Secondary recommendation: revise all protocols regarding human-alien interaction. We may have significantly underestimated their capabilities. She paused, then added one final note. The monitors still can't find a pattern. Perhaps that's because what we witnessed wasn't about patterns. It was about something else entirely. Something we haven't learned to measure yet.